Welcome to NCBA's Cattleman's Call podcast with host Lane Nordland.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Cattleman's Call podcast. Thanks for answering the call. Lane Nordland with you here as always, and we are making our way into 2026. Hard to believe the new year is upon us once again, and with it being a new year, new opportunities for folks in the cattle business. We're going to talk about an opportunity for folks to expand their maternal and genetic opportunities in their cattle herds here today with some great cattle that are going to be offered in Ogallala, Nebraska coming up on March 7th, 2026. But before we get into the details of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, let's welcome to the conversation today Mr. John Maddux with Maddux Cattle Company. Outside of Southwest Nebraska is where they call home. And John, how are things going today in your neck of the woods? What's it feel like to be moving through into the new year?
Just excellent. We've had a really great summer. It was exceptionally dry this last winter and spring, but boy, since about May 15th, we've had a summer summer and fall for the ages. So it's pretty nice country when it rains, and so we're pretty pleased to have the kind of moisture we've had over the last 6-8 months.
No, it was a shocking surprise for so many of us that did receive that beneficial moisture late in the summer. It didn't help with my PFR policies. I did have to pay those because we didn't time them very right. But I think it's okay to have to pay your pasture, rangeland, and forage insurance premium sometimes. But John, as I mentioned, we are going to talk a little bit about an opportunity for folks to really look at some cattle that really are low cost input, maternal efficiency focus that your operation is really focused on. But before we talk about the sale coming up in March, well, let's just talk about ranching in Southwest Nebraska, how long your family's been in the business, and what it's been like to learn from your forefathers, and in turn what you're doing today in that part of the world.
Well, thanks. Yes, my great-grandparents came out and homesteaded in 1886. Two sets of great-grandparents homesteaded in 1886. And so this is our 140th year in business. My great-grandfather had a livery stable in McCook, Nebraska, and they homesteaded on the Stinking Water north of Juanita, and they kept the livery stable, and my great-grandfather would just ride out to see my great-grandmother and her 5 kids once every 2 weeks, and proved up on the ranch, and were able to expand the ranch in different times over the years. The 1890s were a big dry period plus a financial panic, and so people got to trading land for horses to my great-grandfather, and so he would expand the ranch then, and then my grandfather started feeding cattle in 1917, and adding value to those cattle was his big theme, and so he would turn those home-raised cattle into 2-year-old steers, and then feed them out, and then sell them at St. Joe, Missouri, at the Central Market as fat animals, and did that. And in the 1930s, there was a lot of opportunity for expansion, and he kind of made some money in feeding cattle in the previous decade or so. So expanded the ranch a great deal in the 1930s, and so we really provided a base for our family's operation.
And when we look at that too, adding value, we always want to look at opportunities to add value to our operations, whether that's in the cattle themselves, in marketing opportunities, in natural resource management, in input costs, whatever it may be. Well, I just, what would that been like looking back to 1917 through the 1930s, and because again, even today, when someone starts a new trend or a new practice, the neighbors might look at them a little funny, roll their eyes, and then when it's profitable, it gets their attention. What were the conversations like? I mean, is there any record or any stories that were passed down about how pivotal it is to be diversified or think a little differently than what the status quo is in the livestock business?
Yeah, it's. I think that the main idea is that they tried to take advantage of their resources, and they had the livestock there and had the labor force within the Maddux family, but just selling that ball and calf didn't add a lot of value to the family.
Mhm.
So there were some immigrant farmers that were on a tableland not far away from the ranch that my great grandfather started, or my grandfather started going to, and buying just whole corn from them, and they would haul it down to the feedlot, and we would shell it and then feed it to 2-year-old steers, and and then we'd have to drive them to the rail yard to be shipped to St. Joe. So a far different sort of system than we operate with today, but they were just anxious to find those areas of where we had some kind of advantage or find our resources, and they were able to buy that corn locally, and then put it through using a team of mules to feed cattle, to put that local raised corn through those steers, and add value to them.
Mhm.
And it was a time when there was very little. It was a time as a transition where grain was starting to be fed to cattle, because prior to that, most of the cattle killed in those central markets were coming off grass as a 2 or 3 year old steer. So it was a new kind of system, a new process to feed grain to cattle, and my grandfather thought there was a good opportunity with it, and it was a key part of our business for 80 or 90 years, feeding everything to to finish.
So what has that been like though? As you said, there has been a transition into feeding and supplementing cattle from our past conversations that you and I have had. What was that transition like from your grandfather to your father to yourself? The conversations that were had, the discussions around the kitchen table that maybe in the past growing up that were had about being profitable, adding value, utilizing those resources to where we are today.
Well, we've been kind of burdened in our family, in that we were burdened by a a very a very sincere admonition from my grandfather as he was dying. My grandpa was about ready to die, and he gathered everybody in the family around his bed there, and he had uh, he had just three things to tell the family before he died. He said to everybody, number one, never ever sell that ball and calf. He was always a believer in taking that calf and growing him out and running him on grass, and then put him in the feedlot and feeding him 50 bushels of corn and turn him into a big um, finished steer that could be marketed um, to a packing facility. So it says never. Rule number one is never sell that ball and calf. Number two is never ever sell any hay. Keep that hay around to make sure that you can wean that calf. You've got enough feed to take care of the cows if it snows up in the winter or it doesn't rain for a year. Keep that hay around. And number three is, he said, I don't know if I'm making it to heaven, but if I do, I know the good Lord is going to be feeding steers. stay away from those heifers. So we've always kind of followed those. That's a little bit of a little bit of humor to it, but honestly, those are things that we really followed through with. Is that
Mhm.
we've always been oriented towards adding value to our calves, our home raised calves on the ranch, um, to always keep our own feed resources around so that we never get forced into a position where we have to do something we don't want to do. That having a big pile of feed around gives you a lot of options with markets and weather and situations. We never like to be in a situation where we have to do something we don't want to do. And we've always kind of been steer people. Of we buy calves and take that steer and run them on grass and and add value, get pounds on that steer to add value to them. So that's been a big philosophy of our family. I hate to say this, there have been a few times we bought a few heifers, but it's been modest, and we generally follow my grandfather's three rules.
So, John, when we look at the composition of your cattle as well, what was your grandpa running? I would assume a little more Hereford influence back in the day.
It is interesting enough. In 1886, when Taylor and Clara Maddux moved out and homesteaded, they brought some Angus cows with them, and so yes, we were generally a Hereford operation, but we always had, going back years and years, some Angus influence in our herd, and but yeah, we were pretty much straight Herefords up until the 70s, and of course, with the uh, with the research done on heterosis and hybrid vigor and the benefits that are can be found by having crossbred cattle, we were always interested in trying to produce cattle that were more productive and could add value. And there is no free lunch in the cattle business, but about the closest thing to a free lunch is harnessing the power of hybrid vigor and heterosis. So we've always been a big advocate of trying to do that within our cow herd.
And when you're looking at that cow herd, what are the key things that you want in a productive cow that's out in the countryside? What are the crosses that you're focused on in the breeds, and how are you really maximizing that maternal efficiency as well, but knowing that she's going to go out there and make money for you in the most efficient manner on the landscape that you ranch on as well?
Well, it's our opinion that if we could go out and could create the perfect equation about what the profit function looks like for a cow calf operation, we're pretty uh, we're pretty certain that a huge part of that profitability comes from fertility in the cow, and having a cow that has the ability to go out under range conditions and become pregnant and raise a calf, just raise a calf, is the number one ingredient, the number one factor that really drives profitability in the cow calf sector. So we are always thinking about trying to develop and create that cow that can go out and be is can get pregnant without an excess of resources. And fortunately, part of the benefits of crossbreeding and hybrid vigor is that that's the one quality that really comes from having that that cow with a lot of hybrid vigor, is that they are substantially more fertile than the straight bred cow. So we've always been a big believer of trying to get a level of heterosis so that we can ensure that that cow can have high level of fertility and raise that calf in under normal ranch kind of conditions.
And for yourself, as we look at the current operation, and we've been alluding to it too, that there is a sale coming up here in March with some great cows that are going to be on the offering. Well, let's lead up here to the conversation of where the operation is here in early 2026. Your work with the ranch, where you got the herd that you were focused on, that works best for you, and why we're having a sale. Let's talk about that. But leading up to this great cow herd that you've put together and are offering for sale, let's talk about that, what that process has been like, some of those partners you've worked with as well, and where we are right now, and why we are having a sale.
Yeah, well, we've always been oriented towards the crossbred cow. However, we really got serious about it when I came back to the ranch. I grew up here in Southwest Nebraska on the ranch and worked there, but I went away and got my MBA at the University of Chicago, got interested in finance, and went off to Wall Street and worked for Goldman Sachs for 15 years. Came back when I was about 40 years old, 20 years ago or so, and we then kind of got aggressive about implementing a composite program. And in consultation with a meat animal research center at Clay Center, Nebraska, we tried to develop a cow herd that was going to be capable of grazing year-round, and that would be generally grazing native range in the summertime and corn stalks, crop aftermath of some sort in the winter, which is one of our real resources here, and be able to do that without any extra feed. And basically, we've developed that crossbred composite that doesn't take any feed or ration throughout the year, that we can graze 365 days a year. So several things behind that. We tried to pick a set of breeds that, through the research done at the germplasm evaluation at Clay Center, about maternal type animals that would deliver that fertility in a package that still had a lot of value to the end product. So we went through all the research that was done there, trying to find those breeds that had innate fertility traits, age of puberty, and were generally fertile breeds to begin with, but then use those different breeds to develop a composite that was really captured those suite of traits that were important to us in defining what we were looking for. We were looking for a cow that could graze year round, so she's moderate in size, easy fleshing, has a really a terrific udder, is calves on their own without any assistance, and that can raise a calf every year and gets easily rebred in order to be a long-term asset to the cow herd.
And as we get to that opportunity too, I just think it's so important. Cost is top of mind for so many producers. Yes, we are seeing record high calf prices for cow-calf producers, but input costs are not going to go down anytime soon either. I know there is talk that interest rates might go down a tad as well. So when we look at trying to manage ever-rising input costs too, what is your advice to producers of all ages, of all backgrounds, on how important it is to really maximize what you are able to run on and look at it as a business, not just we're running cattle, we're running yearlings, but truly getting an overall accounting of your operation, from natural resources to genetics to the break evens. How important is it to focus on input costs? Because sometimes I think folks just think, we'll go get that operating note and we'll get it paid off in a few years when the prices come up. What's your take on that?
Well, I think generally there's too much focus on the on what we produce and not about the costs that it takes to produce it. And so there is no free lunch. And so when when operators, and I've been down this road too, where when we really focus on weaning weights and producing bigger calves and maybe cows that will raise that bigger 600-pound calf, there's a price to be had for that, in that you've got cows who end up being a lot bigger, and the growth that comes with that, and certainly when you get milk production at a high level, again, it takes a lot more input to keep an acceptable level of fertility. So we have tried to orient our cows to be at that slightly lower production levels in terms of growth and milk. We try to have a 1,150-pound cow, and with modest levels of milk, because when we have those 1,500-pound cows that are raising those big, impressive, soggy calves, there's a cost that goes with that. The cost is it takes a lot of feed to keep those cows at a high level of fertility, and especially if they're straight breds. So we try to look for modest, more optimum production levels in order to keep that fertility at a high level. And probably the low-hanging fruit in most cow-calf operations is minimizing the amount of feed you put into them, a winter feed in particular. So if you can find some kind of genetic package that can graze as opposed to have to be fed a ration or fed hay, it helps you on the cost of that high cost feed input. But also, one of the additional costs that aren't always figured into the equation is the extra cost of the labor and equipment that it takes to feed that cow. And we do everything we can to facilitate grazing. Fortunately, in our part of Nebraska, we can most years we can plan on an open winter. And if we have an open winter, we can make that cow graze all year round. And doesn't mean we don't have to make some provisional plans for those years that it doesn't rain, and the years that we have 2 or 3 feet of snow, and that's happened 2 or 3 years ago. But 9 years out of 10, we can have that grazing program really minimize the feed costs, the machinery costs, and the labor costs that go into that cow, so we have a more profitable production equation on that cow.
Mhm. And when we look at the year-round grazing, I mean, as of late, those of us, especially in the Midwest and in the West, we've been through drought. We've had to adapt. We've had to reduce our cow herds, try to keep our best producing cows and most efficient cows out in the countryside along with it too. And what has it been like grazing and especially with the year-round grazing and the cattle that you have put together? What has that been like, and what has the breed ups been like, and just how efficient have these cattle been through drought over the past few years?
Yeah, our real claim to fame, or our real asset in our cow herds has been our fertility. So we really try to keep put a little bit of extra effort into our heifer development, making sure that our heifers get to an adequate weight for being bred the first time, and kind of take care of that young female. But then after that heifer has had her first calf, then she just goes into her mature cow herd. And if we've done a good job of developing that heifer, we just plan on her always being in the herd. This year, in our 2-year-olds all the way up to our 7, 8-year-old cows, we were right at 3%, 3.6% of opens. So, and that would be on a 55-day breeding season. So pretty acceptable breed ups, and so we really try to make that be our focus. And I will say, that is with maybe being a touch more tender loving care to those yearling heifers and 2-year-olds, to get a little extra feed into them as they prepare to have that first calf. But after we've done that, they're kind of have to do it on their own. So in doing that, we feel like that's the best way to put your investment into that young animal, and that just pays a lot of benefits of having a really low level of opens once they reach that cow herd.
Yep.
Our breed makeup is made up of mostly British breeds. The one exception is we do have one continental breed, but the base of our cow herd is Red Angus. They've had great maternal traits and are a good base to start our composite. And in our composite, they're about 3/8 of our composite makeup. And then in addition, we use not a British breed, but British in type, or somewhat British in type. We use a French breed called Tarente, which are very maternal, very excellent udders, good to modest milk production, and have a really attractive age of puberty. And then the balance of our composite is made up of Devon, a British breed, South Devon, another British breed, and Red Pole. And those breeds are smaller breeds, but we went through the Meat Animal Research Center research, and we feel like they make positive contributions to our composite in different traits. And that's kind of the idea of composite development and using multiple breeds, is you have the ability to use complementarity, and that you won't find a breed that delivers everything you want or everything you need, but in that composition, you can bring in the genes of different breeds in order to shore up other weak points or add the strengths of each breed. So in doing that, we feel like of that 3/8 Red Angus, quarter Tarente, 1/8 Devon, 1/8 South Devon, 1/8 Red Pole, we really have a package that delivers, at least for our system, for our way that we handle our cattle, and that delivers on that year-round grazing, and really has a very acceptable end product, as many of those British breeds really add a lot of grading and carcass quality to the package.
Mm-hmm.
So we feel like it's a real useful combination of breeds, and a set of that really delivers, first and foremost, high degree of breed back for producers.
What has it been like, obviously, for your system, collaborating with researchers or other entities, or maybe NRCS, and because a part of that system is your landscape as well. in your ecosystem. What has that been like, whether collaborating with researchers or folks that are helping you create that perfect composite to the management of your natural resources as well, and your grazing density and your grass and soil health? What can you talk about what that's been like over the years?
Yeah, it's been really. I think it's really our unfair advantage is that we have in agriculture just this incredible amount of research to call upon. That there is an enormous amount of help out there in the form of federal and university research, and we've tried to tap into that all we can because it's a real unfair advantage that very few industries really have that luxury of going and finding that research and then seeing if it might be applicable to your individual operation. Um, you don't have if you ran a grocery store, they wouldn't have a similar kind of system out there to help producers to um, run a better grocery store. But we in agriculture have that great um, that great infrastructure of finding that valuable research and then through extension disseminate it out to our industry. And it kind of amazes me that we don't use it more than we do as producers, and that it's underappreciated about how how lucky we are to have those resources. Um, so we've tried to be real students of what's being done on research, and then try to be um, wise about what works for our system and which doesn't, and find those practices that really can help us improve our bottom line.
Yep. Well, and John, getting back to what I've been teasing during this whole conversation, and it's folks know that there's already been a phase one of your herd dispersal coming up on Saturday, March 7th, 2026, there at Ogallala Livestock in Nebraska. Your maternalizer, mature bred cow herd dispersal. It's phase two of this plan is going to take place. Why? And when the neighbors saw that you're having a phase one, people were asking questions. But why are you offering these cattle and all this hard work to the public?
Yeah, we've had several large leases that we've used to run our cows, a large ranch in the very western part of the Sand Hills that we've been running cows on, and then a lease over in central Wyoming that we've had, and both of those leases are coming to the end. So we're going to have to rescale our business and have a more modest cow herd here in our home ranch in Chase County. So because we don't have the grass resources, we're downsizing, and we're going to end up selling 3,000 of our cows in March 7th, and they would all be they're going to be about 450 first calf heifers coming 2-year olds, and they're all AI'd and sorted into different breeding or calving groups in the pretty short calving intervals. And then we'll have about 2,500 mature cows, and they would be all the way from 3s to 7s. Our phase one, which we sold some cows in 2025, was selling some of our older cows, and older they were 6 and 7-year old cows. But I'm going to have about 3,000 total to sell at Ogallala in March, and that will be our process of getting our right sizing our cow herd for our grass resources.
And as we look at this opportunity in the cattle business, John, we know the U.S. cattle herd is at its lowest point in decades. Calf prices have been good as well. Cattle producers have been paying off debt, hopefully, with those, maybe putting a smile on their face, making some good investments too. But as we look at that opportunity for small herd rebuilding or expansion, or heck, someone getting a start in the cattle business, whether they're first generation or they're going out on their own, this really could be an opportunity to really set them ahead by decades just based on your hard work. What are some words of encouragement you have for someone to say, "Hey, look at our program. Come look at the cattle. Give me a call because this truly could set you up for success, and make sure that you're not losing, those cows that you just bought during the next preg check because they didn't breed up." We know that's always the gut feeling every time you see a cow get culled off when we're preg checking, especially when prices are high. But let's talk about the investment and how this truly could set them up for success. Your hard work going to also their hard work as well.
Yeah, well, I think that we're going to be very careful that every every cow that we're going to be selling is a good functional cow, that they have a great udder, that they don't have any kind of problems with dispositions or calving knees or any problems like that. So we're dedicated to make sure that if there's anything to be culled, it'll be done, ahead of time. And it's important, I think, to mention that we are not creaming the very best of our herd. We're selling everything that is of our bred cows. It's not like we're saving the good ones back at home. We're selling everything. So I think that they haven't been sorted and haven't been picked through, and I guess they have been picked through, and that we have taken any problem cows out of the herd. So I feel confident that the cows will deliver, and they're young cows, and I think that the way this next cycle is setting ourselves up, it's going to be a very slow expansion to our cycle. So here, I think you have an opportunity to buy a young cow who will have a good productive period of raising higher priced product or higher value kind of calves, and we're not going to just build our numbers overnight. So I think that it would be a good opportunity, because you can have some faith that they're they've been that they are just not somebody's junk. They are the heart of our herd, the whole of our herd, and that we've only we've been very diligent about taking out anything that isn't going to be
Mhm.
a good productive cow.
And I think that's very important to point out because we know the day when herd expansion does fully go into effect, and it will be slow, as you pointed out. But, folks like to sit at the ring and put together young cows that maybe didn't breed up this fall, and they have their magic, and then get them bred up. And you don't know what you're buying sometimes, too. But it's an adrenaline rush to rebuild or get back into the cattle business in some way. But I think that is so important to point out that these are top end cattle, and they really could help folks get a start or a rebuild there too. What how can folks maybe come see the cattle, reach out to you, talk about the cattle? What's that process going to be like as we get ready for this March sale?
Sure. Well, we're open to anybody coming and visiting the ranch, and we'll take you around and show you every class of livestock we got here. Whether it would be from the yearling heifers right up to our running age cows and bulls. And so that would sure be an option. And of course, they'll be at the sale barn a few days before the sale on the 7th. So I would say by um, March 4th or 5th, we'd have the cows up there, so there'd be a good opportunity to go to the sale early in order to get a look at them. I didn't mention, and I just would mention in that the one thing that we've been developing this composite over the last 35 years. I think we really started in 1994 of the first steps in developing our composite, and because of that, we're into the maybe the sixth or seventh generation of the composite, of using those bulls that we create back on our cows that are of that 3/8, 1/4, 1/8, 1/8, 1/8 makeup. And because of that, and because of some being very careful about our bull selection, and we've been able to build a lot of uniformity in our cows, and that they really look like more like a straight bred Angus than you might expect, of having 5 different breeds contributing to them. But we have been really diligent to try to build lots of uniformity in the cows. So one thing that would help in taking a look at the cows is you get a good cross section. You've seen them all, because they're really are quite uniform and not a lot of variation in them. So I think that is a plus for somebody who is concerned about having a lot of genetic diversity, but through many generations of breeding, we have taken that genetic diversity and put it in a package that is quite uniform.
Mm-hmm.
So I would encourage anybody to look at our website too. We have a website of MaddixCattleCompany.com that has some good photos and videos of our cows. We also have a YouTube channel which has a lot of good videos over the years, and of course, if anybody wanted to visit the ranch and see them in production, we would be glad to host you anytime for now in the sale.
John, what does it feel like? This isn't easy for you, for your crew, or anything like that. What is the feeling like, knowing that you are giving an opportunity for folks to be successful in the cattle business, and to also look back on your work over the past 35 years of creating a composite that works for you? What is the feeling like, though, right now, for yourself and your family?
Oh, it's bittersweet in that we would, like most cattle people, we just always want to run one more than we have, but we've had a good run with our different leases, and it's been an exceptionally good relationships, and it just has run its course. So we need to, again, downsize to right size our cow herd for our resources here at home. So we kind of hate to be selling some of them, but by the same token, we've been in business for 140 years, and we're committed to try to make sure it can go on for another 100 years, and some way or another. So sometimes you have to do these sort of things in order to keep your business going and keep it viable. So we accept that, and I really have confidence that the product line, the livestock we have offered, will be good, productive cattle to anybody who would come and purchase them. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure that they are that they will be successful with our cows.
Now, John, you've had a storied career in finance and in the livestock business, and jumping back to those 3 things that your grandfather shared with the family, those 3 things that he wanted everyone to realize here in the 21st century, what would those 3 things be that you would want to share with your family and teammates, and just to be successful, and to keep in mind to for that next generation?
Yeah, well, I think that it's the cattle business, of course, has got a lot of romance around it, and a lot of emotion tied to it. But which I'm fully engaged in and fully appreciate, and and I love the business, and I love the romance of it, and I love all that. But fundamentally, the most important thing to keep in mind is that we are in a business, and that we need to be profitable, and we need to be profitable over time. And it is a hard thing in commodity production to stay profitable over a long period of time, and important that keeping that business focus is really critical to keeping those family operations going from one generation to the next. So that's the first priority for our family and our business, is trying to keep ourselves always in the black and moving ahead financially, and not get caught up in the romance,
Mm-hmm.
And or let the romance of the business and the accoutrements of the business color our focus and our dedication to being profitable.
Well, I think that is some very good advice, and like you said too, I think sometimes we put on our rose-colored glasses and look at how things were done in the past, how we're doing it now, and we all know we have to be adaptable. We have to be open to educational opportunities, and I want to highlight something you mentioned earlier: is those extension resources, those NRCS or the collaborators out in the countryside, that sometimes they aren't utilized as much as they should be. In every single one of our communities has an extension agent that has a background in livestock, or someone in the range field that can truly help you improve your grazing ecosystems as well. And I think it's so important for us to always keep an open mind for those ways to stay profitable and raise families in truly one of the greatest businesses on earth, and that is agriculture, but it's still a business. And as John mentioned, a lot of work has gone into the cows that are going to be offered coming up there on Saturday, March 7th at Ogallala Livestock, Ogallala, Nebraska. Over 3,000 head will be offered. Check out MadduxCattle.com. They have a complete listing of what's going to be offered in their Phase 2 maternalizer sale. And John's contact information is also there on the website, and more on their philosophy as well. But John, before I let you get back to your day, anything else you'd just like to leave us with before you start prepping for this sale?
No, I think we've covered everything, and I just would welcome any inquiry, welcome anybody who would like to learn more about our program and our cattle, and we appreciate the interest. And I think that if you were interested in expanding your cow-calf enterprise, I think we have a good product to offer, and we'll do everything that we in our power to make sure you've got have good results with our cattle being offered.
Well, again, I'd just like to thank John Maddux for joining us here today, and a tip of the hat to him, his family, and crew for putting together some great cattle over the years. And I'd encourage you to go check out these composites that they are offering. As I mentioned, coming up Saturday, March 7th, we'll have a link in the podcast details as well to their website. But John, thanks again for joining us and answering the Cattleman's Call.
Appreciate it, partner. Thank you.
With that, friends, thank you for joining us and listening to the history, the work ethic, and all that's gone into the Maddux Cattle Company and their composite herd. Click the link for more details. With that, I'm Lane Nordlund. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to NCBA's Cattleman's Call podcast with Lane Nordlund. For more information, visit ncba.org and make sure to subscribe to the podcast today.